I guess the first thing is, if for the people who aren't from Fort Lauderdale, Mayor, we'll start with you to sort of set the scene of what the personality is here and what differentiates us from other markets.
Wow, right. Is this working? Okay. Is this working? Okay. Well, that's a big question. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here today, and it's a pleasure to be on the same panel with esteemed colleagues in the business. And I want to thank you all for being here today, because I think when we talk about the St. Regis, we're really talking about the future of Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale has for years had this beautiful harbor called Bahia Mar, and yet it seemed to be lacking in some way. When you used to come here, you'd see this sort of this vast wasteland of asphalt that covered most of it, and it was great for hosting the International Boat Show. But I thought, and many of my colleagues on the commission thought, that the opportunity here was not being realized. And so for many years we put out to the development world, please see what we could do to try to enhance the experience here at Bahia Mar. And the first go around, I have to tell you that I was against. I voted against it. It overbuilt the site. It really took away from the experience that a person should have when they come to the beach. It obstructed water views. It was going to enhance traffic beyond which anyone could tolerate. And I think that as time went on, the developers realized that what I was saying was the right thing. No, but if they listened to me the first time, they would have avoided a lot of anguish. But no, seriously, working with the Tape family, working with Related Group, working with all the partners that are involved with this project, we came to a wonderful, wonderful design and experience. We downsized the project significantly, but we upgraded it significantly. So in the process, we will now have what you see behind me is going to be an amazing experience. And why that's important? Because we do host the International Boat Show, and we need to have an on-land experience that befits something that has been really been a signature event that people come from all over the world to experience. So now, in addition to seeing all the wonderful yachts and our wonderful beaches, they're now going to be able to step off onto the land and experience a great hotel, as well as the residences that really are what Fort Lauderdale is going to be about over the next decade.
So, and I'm going to direct this over to you, Tony. Kind of going back to Fort Lauderdale, for so long we had that spring break reputation. I know we pretty much have shed that image now. How do you think that Fort Lauderdale is moving into this luxury market?
Sure. So you see it across the board. I mean, this is just one example of a property that is really taking things to the next level. If you walk through even the existing hotel properties, the resorts along the beach, each one of them is competing really to go after the higher end markets. It's what we're known for at this point. And we are building the Broward County Convention Center just right across the intercoastal here, and that's no exception. That's a property that goes after luxury conventions. It's not going after per diem events. It's going after pharmaceutical, tech, aviation events that bring in high spenders that want to stay at luxury resorts. And that's unheard of in the convention world. So you can see it a whole bunch of different steps, but it's really just the simplest way is go take a drive down the street. That spring break mentality that exists in a couple of cool, quaint little bars that will probably never go away. We all know which ones I'm talking about. But that's great. That gives us character. There's nothing wrong with that. But, they're few and far in between. We're getting to the point where even the mom and pops, which give us the culture here, are nice mom and pops and really cool places that are trendy and neat. So it's just, what an exciting time to be a part of this community.
Absolutely. And Craig, I know you have a lot of numbers and a lot of stats for us today as well. You are a numbers guy, but
He cheated. He wrote homework with them.
I know, he got some papers over it. So what do you think is driving this demand for luxury residential hospitality offerings today?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, one of the things I love about the sales office is the magic show. On this side of the sales office, which is a lot of the conference rooms and the immersion room, which is a beautiful little theater, on the other side of that is the Atlantic Ocean. But the way the sales office was designed by Related, everything is looking at the future of the future Monaco of the United States. You know, look at these amazing yachts. I just think it's time. You know, we're living here in South Florida for 32 years. Originally, I'm from New Jersey, so I guess I'm kind of very well acquainted with what they call the Gold Coast, South Beach up to Palm Beach. You know, I'm in my 60s now, and when you hit your 60s, you are kind of guided to not say two words. Eliminate two words from your vocabulary. Eliminate the word always, eliminate the word never, because life has a way of sort of undermining that. However, I'm going to stick my chin out, Ashley. When it comes to this particular piece of real estate, this 40-acre site, the future of the Monaco of the U.S., this is a never before, never again piece of real estate. There's a lot of oceanfront properties that get developed. Some of them are tear downs of old buildings and they replace them with gleaming, beautiful new architectural wonders. But you're never going to get a Bahia Mar ever again. And it's time. And the mayor and I were talking about this earlier. You know, these brands just don't curate the developer. They just don't vet out the developer. They vet out the town. And St. Regis is a beautiful, you know, cherry on the cake, if you will. But let's not forget that Ritz-Carlton was here. Four Seasons is here. Auberge is here. W is here. A lot of brands have already vetted this town out. St. Regis gave it the nod because they see how the world-class brands are viewing Fort Lauderdale. You know, when I travel, whether it's in South America or wherever, and people ask me the same question you asked the mayor, what's the difference in the personalities of, say, Miami versus Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach? I get that a lot. And here's my answer. Whether you agree or not, I don't know, but you know, when you think about Palm Beach, you think more about the Hamptons, you know, the way people dress and the way people conduct themselves. When you think about Miami, it's a little more glitzy. It's a little more glamorous. And there's a market for that. My God, particularly when I travel to South America, they just love everything about the Miami thing. But this, right now it's got a little bit of a St. Bart's feel to it. But you give it a little time. Wait till St. Regis gets completed. I'm not the only one that's talking about this area as the future Monaco of the United States. It always has been the maritime capital of the U.S. Wait till this gets developed. This is actually going to be the iconic stamp that will influence a lot of the future development of Fort Lauderdale.
So I lived here for 10 years. I never thought we'd be Monaco, but I'm into it. I am so into it.
Go look out there.
Monaco should look so good.
It's true. We're a lot cleaner and nicer. You know, going into that, Mayor, you know, we've had so much momentum in Fort Lauderdale, especially I feel like since 2020 living here. It's like I step outside my door, there are 10 restaurants opening a week, which is a lot for Fort Lauderdale, a lot happening here. But what else do you think that the potential that's still untapped? What else do you think is ahead for Fort Lauderdale?
So you mentioned 2020, and that was the year of COVID. And so much of the future was uncertain, and, you know, we didn't know, you know, I just became mayor, you know, it was no page in any mayor's playbook of how to deal with crises, especially a pandemic. But, you know, we found our way through it. And what we realized is that people were coming to Fort Lauderdale. People wanted to move south. They wanted to be part of this experience. They were being cloistered in their little apartments in the big cities, and they couldn't stand it anymore. And they were coming here and they were saying, my God, I can breathe here, right? So as more and more people were coming here, especially young people, we knew that we had to build a sustainable environment which was affordable, which they knew that was going to, all the infrastructure was going to be in place to be able to sustain the growth. And I think that what we're seeing now with new restaurants, the whole urban and suburban experience that we're curating could not happen or cannot continue unless the city did its part in making sure that we're building a new water treatment plant, we're enhancing our sewage treatment plant, we're building all new pipes underwater, we're doing all kinds of improvements, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of improvements to the underground infrastructure to make sure that Fort Lauderdale can bring itself into the 21st century and to be able to sustain itself. I go to conferences all over the country, and Fort Lauderdale is the example that others seek to follow because we stuck our neck out and said we are going to invest in our infrastructure. Very few people do that. We're close to $2 billion that is now committed to building infrastructure. And while that's a big number, it really pales in comparison to the need that most cities are finding themselves in. So yes, it's great that we have now created a beautiful experience. Yes, we're not Miami, and we don't want to be Miami. No. And we're not Palm Beach, and we don't want to be Palm Beach, even though Tony dresses like one. But Fort Lauderdale has now established its own brand, and that has been my goal since I first became a commissioner many years ago, to create our own brand. And people move from Miami and say, I feel like I'm part of America when I come up here, or I feel like there's more diversity here. There's a place for everybody in Fort Lauderdale. You don't feel edged out by any one group or culture, because Fort Lauderdale has always prided itself on being a very diverse community, and you see it with the multiple languages that are spoken, with the sales office. You guys tell me who's buying, and it's amazing how many diverse customers you all have, by people coming from all over the world and all over the country. Fort Lauderdale is mostly a domestic buyer's market, and I think we love that, and we love the fact that we're able to continue in that vein. It's important for us to make sure that public safety is sustained. We continue to add more police officers, we continue to add more firefighters, because people need to feel safe. And I don't know if any of you read the Miami Herald, but a couple of weeks ago, a very front page article of the Miami Herald talked about how downtown Fort Lauderdale is becoming a place for young families. And we're seeing not just a bunch of dog walkers, but we're seeing baby carriages, and we're seeing families living in the urban experience. And what the beach does is it brings a complement to the downtown experience, bringing people over to the beach, being able to enjoy what we have here. It's a beautiful, open, public beach. And, it'd be nice at the end of the day to have a cocktail at the St. Regis.
For champagne.
So the bottom line is that, Fort Lauderdale provides a great experience for people who want to visit here, want to move here, start a career. It's a very family-oriented kind of experience. And one of the things that we've been able to do as a city is leverage some of our assets to bring in some family-friendly enjoyment. For example, we leveraged with Inter Miami, and for the last several years, you've been seeing soccer teams, of course, Inter Miami, and the whole soccer experience has been elevated to a point where Fort Lauderdale's never seen it before. And then with hiring Leo Messi by the team, it's created a lot of excitement for the whole sport, to the point where the academy, which they established just a few years ago, they have a waiting list to get into it, because more and more people want to be part of the soccer experience. Then we have the Iceplex at Holiday Park, and we have the championship team, the Panthers, who are playing their fourth game. I think it's tonight. Tomorrow night. Thursday. I'm sorry.
Yeah, last night was brutal.
Yeah, last night it was brutal for the Oilers, and I think that having those public ice skating rinks available, which we never had before, and people criticize me for saying, "Why are you bringing this into Fort Lauderdale? No one's ever going to ice skate. Hockey is not a Fort Lauderdale sport, and now you can't even get in there." And so you have to be forward thinking. You have to have vision to know, what it is that's going to make a city exciting. And then, of course, we have one of the largest pickleball centers in the whole country down by Snyder Park. 44 pickleball courts run by a private company, which has done an amazing job. And then right behind me, as you mentioned, we have the aquatic center. So between public and private investment in the city of Fort Lauderdale in the last 5 years has been almost $350 million. And when I say private investment, $250 million was private investment. Very few cities have lucked out like that, to be able to get private investors to put that kind of money. And why are they doing that? Why are they doing it? It's not just because of the team itself or the sport itself. It's because of the environment, as you described. What does Fort Lauderdale mean to them? And that's why they've made this investment. So We're looking forward to another Stanley Cup parade. Yes. And we're very excited to partner with the team and all the other investors in the city who have made Fort Lauderdale a great experience.
So we have pickleball, we have hockey, we have soccer, we have all of those things, swimming, and it's all right here. And I think, Craig, I want you to talk about that. Like, how do you think that this particular property is going to transform this area?
Well, I tried to touch on it a little earlier. This is a unique site in the whole eastern seaboard of the U.S. It just happens to belong to Fort Lauderdale. And I just think the stamp of approval that St. Regis gave Fort Lauderdale and Related for this project is big. St. Regis is a very well respected brand. But I also think it's kind of unique. I gotta hand it to Related. They somehow always smell the opportunity to start something. And I'm telling you, I remember those of us that were in real estate, 2008. Remember that hangover? That was our 1929, and it lasted a couple of years. When it was the end of 2011, when George Perez from Related said it's time to get back out there because all that inventory that everybody thought was going to take forever to sell was all gone. Well, let me show you something. There's a lot of realtors in the room, and you may not realize I know you all realized last year was a slow year for real estate sales, and it was. Mortgage rates went up. We had a presidential election, and nobody really knew who was going to win. Before the day of the election, you didn't know if it was going to be the boy or the girl, because it looked like a 50-50 thing, and it slowed everything down. I can tell you statistically, according to the National Association of Realtors, whatever, it was the slowest year of residential transactions in 30 years. How's that? Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with you. It was, because let's face it, Florida is part of the United States. Listen, I forget that. I've been in South America so many times, they always love to tease me. Hey, Craig, what's the best thing about Miami? Because they talk about Miami, man. I don't know, what's the best thing about Miami? It's so close to the United States. By the way, it's hard for me because I've heard that joke now 57 times, and I have to pretend it's the first time every time. But the funny thing about Florida, I have learned this in the 32 years I've been here. Whenever there's a national slowdown, Florida's the last state to slip into it. And it's the first one to pop out. And I swear, I don't know how George Perez has this third eye for this stuff. But he timed this beautifully. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to put this down. I bought some show and tell stuff today. Because I think the timing of Bahia Mar couldn't be better. And I've been working with the wonderful sales team from Douglas Elliman here for a few weeks. And I'm watching them sell. And I'm watching how passionately excited you are about this property. And I love working with them because look at this property. Well, let me talk to you about the timing of things. This is what blows my mind about George Perez, and I think it's going to blow you. I think it's going to impress you too. These are condos that sell for more than $10 million a day out of the Palm Beach County. We call that South Florida, right? This was last year. I know it's small. I'll read it for you. This is 12 months. In January of last year, we sold 5, and then we sold in the month of June 4. Not very many. South Florida was kind of quiet last year. The wealthy were sitting on their hands. Well, look what happened this year. Yeah, oh, wow. Oh, wow.
That's the response he wanted, by the way.
I taught the rest there. I was looking for, oh, wow, I was looking for an amen. The wealthy have two things going for them that we mere mortals don't. First of all, they have a lot of cash, so they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. Take a look out there as an example. But secondly, I am convinced that they had access to information that we don't. They were sitting on their hands last year. Mortgage rates are still high. We've got a lot of issues in the world, right? We have riots in LA today. We have still wars going on around the world, but they're buying in South Florida in big, big numbers. They recapped it for me on the bottom here. Last year, there were 47 condos that sold in South Florida all year. You're at 56, and you're not halfway through the year. So for those of you that are being told by your clients that they're waiting for what? I'm not sure. And by the way, these are condo sales in the greater Fort Lauderdale area. Same pattern, huh? No, this is just everything in Fort Lauderdale. Everything that's happening. Well, everything that's under 30 years of age. The stuff that's over 30 years of age is another story for a different time. But we don't have, this is all about St. Regis today. We've got the mayor here. I want to really talk about more about what Fort Lauderdale is becoming and what Bahia Mar is going to become. But you see Fort Lauderdale slipping into the same pattern? And last but not least, and all this goes to your question. What makes Bahia Mar? How's Bahia Mar going to influence the future of Fort Lauderdale? Well, it's 7. Look at this architecture. It is selling. Kurt's going to build it, and it's going to be the talk of the world as soon as you break ground, sir. As soon as you break ground. This is inventory, in case you're wondering. So I guess to give you an idea of demand, let me show you supplying for Lauderdale. This was 2022, 2023, 2024. We're running out of supply. And why are we running out of supply? Because, Dean, you've done a hell of a job. You've made Fort Lauderdale the talk of so many American families that have decided to relocate here, especially since COVID. We've been averaging around 1,000 people a day. You all heard that story, 1,000 people a day to Florida, 1,000 people a day to Florida. That's a net. Oh, hold on, you're ahead of me. That's a net number that's given to us by the Census Bureau for the U.S. It's births, they subtract deaths, they measure people moving into the state with tax returns and driver's licenses, and they measure the people moving out the same way. So for the last 10 years, from 2013 to 2023, it was 1,000 a day. Last year was 1,280 a day. Florida population is growing. It's accelerating. And there are so many people now that want to be a part of Fort Lauderdale. Part of the reason they don't want to be a part of Miami is because it's gotten really, really crowded. And it's gotten really, really expensive. But Related, they're selling here at the price per foot they're selling this. When you compare this to anything on the beach in Miami, this is a relative bargain. And it's a relative bargain. And any high-end broker that understands the value differences between Miami or Palm Beach, this is one of those moments in time. The mayor's done a hell of a job promoting Fort Lauderdale. It is on the lips of a lot of people from all four corners of the United States. And this is a wonderful stamp of approval of where Fort Lauderdale is going. So there's a little bit of information for you.
I feel like I have to stand up now. I'm 5'3", and he got very excited. I'm not doing my job over here. So I want to let Tony speak for a while too. And we're going to come back to amenities. We want to talk about everything that this property and this whole project is going to offer. But one of the big things that I think that we're most excited about that you briefly touched about is the Fort Lauderdale Convention Center opening this year. And also how it's going to be related, because if people want to get over here, they can take a water taxi, because none of us want to be walking around in the heat, right? Yeah. All right, I'm going to sit down.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. So this is a brilliant new product that we've got coming online. It has the largest waterfront ballroom in all of America. It's got a beautiful hotel attached to it, but we still need more room, so we're grateful for this project. But it's got a lot of good things going for it. Some of the neat things, aside from the ballroom, we purpose-built it in a new era of convention centers. So when you watch a product unveiling from Google or Apple, you'll see that they have large amphitheaters, and they do their product unveilings outside. We built an amphitheater at this convention center that's outdoors, that allows high-tech companies and companies that want to make a big bang to do their product unveilings with a backdrop of the beautiful bridge over there. And in fact, you can see this property probably from over there. To give that level of affluence when they're unveiling something fancy or something really groundbreaking. So as an interesting side effect of building this project, we also see it as an opportunity where we can become a place that is known for its cutting edge, where products are unveiled and new ways forward for companies are unveiled. And there was attention to detail in every single way on this project. When you talk about the water taxi, it gets you a unique opportunity. So for most conventions, people want to be able to walk indoors to their attached hotel, right? That's kind of a no-brainer. But there are ways around that. You can create a compelling and interesting experience, visitor journey for people. And no better way to do that than to allow you to get your mimosa on your way over to your convention in the morning and to grab whatever you want, the beer or whatever, on the water taxi on the way back from the convention. So we create an interesting experience for these guests that are going to stay over here at this property and the other Central Beach properties on the way back from a conference. And it's incredibly exciting to a lot of groups. We are booking out conventions to 2039 right now. We've never been in a position for our conference center where people actually are fighting for space. You know, before this renovation, it wasn't a convention center. It was a little expo hall that you go to your home show in, consumer shows. The locals would love it. There's nothing wrong with those, right? They're great quality of living improvements for our community, but we are now attracting conventions that bring people from across the planet. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a conference that had all of the casino machine and game makers from around the globe came to it. There were people from over 100 countries in attendance to the show, and they spent millions on their exhibit hall floor to show off all of this high-tech equipment. It is the fastest growing show of its kind in the world right now. It's amazing. And these are people that spend money, you know. I mean, these are casino owners and investors. And
And you also talked
what I
about the
missed.
market, that this isn't the small markets. You're talking about tech, that you're
Yeah.
playing into the luxury. Talk about that.
yeah, so you can't afford to come here as a small government conference, which is great because government conventions don't exist as of this year. So but that's actually a positive for us in that we are in a proof market. We are going after conferences that don't have to go through different administrations or whatever. They're conferences that are on luxury markets that are fairly recession proof. They are doctors' conventions where they have to come in to find out about their continuing education, but they want a great experience for their affluent family while they're here. It's the high-tech conferences. We have I can't announce the name of it yet, but we have the leading cell phone, it's like executives conference coming to town here. I think it's 2030. These are all the people that own all the cell phone networks or the CEO level, the investors, the people who make the technology that use cell phone networks across the globe. They're holding their conference here. They recognize that the city is not only the right amenities, affluence level, all that, but it also has the right level of tech that they want. So it's exciting to see this growth, and it's fascinating that we went from a conference center, convention center that was pretty much impossible to sell, quite frankly, to one where we are beating out other cities that everyone else loses to. Cities like Nashville, where every convention wants to be in Nashville, we're grabbing them up, we're stealing them, we're taking those conventions here. Same with conventions that happen across San Antonio, Orlando, Tampa. They are coming here instead because they want to see that level of affluence, and it attracts their guests. So incredibly exciting to see that. And I'd also like to throw out that we sit on the Port's property over there. The Port is also no exception to this level of affluence. They're starting to move away from, and they have over the past 10 years, the weekend booze cruise ships, although they still exist, I can attest to that. But they're really moving into those markets of the luxury cruise ships. I was just touring one that was here for its maiden voyage, whatever, after they reinvented it, redid it. And when I took a tour of this ship, it had a walk-in closet that was bigger than my house on your cruise ship. Like, you don't even need that. Who uses their closet in the cruise ship? So it gives you an idea, though, of the level of this entire community coming together and really attracting the type of guests that wants to stay at a property like this. So exciting
We
times.
need places for people to stay, right? I mean, that's
We're actually short hotel rooms. We have some 40,000 hotel rooms across Broward County. And make no mistake, this property doesn't just affect Fort Lauderdale. It uplifts the entirety of the region, Broward County, and even beyond. But when you're talking about the convention center, we need more rooms now. We built all this space, but we can't get enough hotel rooms for the conventions we want to bring to town. And you're always out of balance in some way. That's development, right? But this gives us that many more of these high-end rooms, coupled with other properties like Pier 66, the Omni, and all these other great properties that will allow us to bring in conferences that have 5,000, 6,000 attendees on peak. I can't say how many people. I mean, that's a very large convention. So that brings us within the mega convention market, meaning us and the other top 25 cities across the globe. So it's so exciting.
Are we getting Mary Kay?
We are. We may find out. It's a private joke. Yeah.
But that's actually a great example. A convention that has always been in Texas for its entire life, we have a shot at it, bringing it here. Because you bring people here, you bring them into the location, and they go, wow, I'd much rather be here than fill in the blank anywhere.
Well, the reason why it's been in Texas is because the head of the organization lives in Texas. So they've just kept it at home. But they visited here last year, and we hosted a dinner for the planners. And there wasn't enough they couldn't say great about our city. So it was. I thought that it was going to happen. I think it's going to happen. And you're talking tens of thousands of room nights. It's just amazing what you guys have been able to produce. That Convention Center Hotel is iconic. And the new expansion of the convention center is unlike anything you see in other cities. And being on the water with all the open space, it's going to be in great demand as it catches on.
I'm scared to ask this question.
Well, it's funny. So we brought these people in town. I do look great, thank you. But we brought these folks in town, and so here you have to like really wow meeting planners, right? Because they're your customers. It's just any sales operation, right? So we bring them in, and we had lifeguards dressed in pink bathing suits, and had you go all out with it, right? So That wasn't me. I mean, yeah. It was a slow pitch. You knocked it right out of the ballpark. Can I also compliment you guys on this? By the way, if this is any indication of the attention to detail of this whole property, this is amazing. I mean, you have like, I see little boats and fish in this thing. We are amazing.
That beautiful woman sitting next to Kurt is Allison Dolberg. She's the director of marketing of Related. She created this. This is yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah, it's a nice sales tool. I remember when I started in real estate, I had an artist sketch and some zeroized floor plans. I feel like Rip Van Winkle. I went to sleep for 100 years, and oh my God, look at these presentations. It's amazing, but it's so appropriate for this $2 billion development. Sorry.
No. So Tony was talking about amenities on a ship, like being able to walk into a walk-in closet. Let's talk about the amenities that residents are going to be able to experience at St. Regis Bahia Mar.
Well, the scale model pretty much speaks for itself.
Give us the details.
One of my favorite is the beach. But this is 2,000 feet, correct? 2,000 linear feet. I mean, that by, so all the focus seems to be over here, which is wonderful. Again, that's a magic show. But 2,000 linear feet of ocean. There are a lot of high-end condo projects, whether it's in Miami Beach or Fort Lauderdale Beach. 150 feet. We have 350 feet of linear feet. It's a big deal. 2,000 feet, which was partly designed by the Tate family, as well as Related, and I'll say influenced / curated by St. Regis. So when you live here, yes, there's a beautiful spa. There's the typical wonderful amenities that you expect in any high-end condo is here, not to mention this view. But I know the value of beach. It is gold. It is pure gold. That $10 million condos I was talking to you earlier about, that's standing inventory. That's not a pre-construction. That's existing inventory, and I promise you almost all of it is on the water. Yeah, every buyer expects to have a full array of amenities that complements that white glove service that the St. Regis provides.
And to have it to themselves as well. They're not sharing this with the resort guest.
No, you're not. It belongs to you. It's got to be managed by a management team that's supervised by St. Regis. So close your eyes and imagine a day in the life of St. Regis. You park your car here, you're not going to want to leave. There's no reason to leave. And at 2,000 feet, linear feet of ocean, I'm asking, for those of you that may not be as familiar with all oceanfront properties in South Florida, I'm asking you to trust me. Never before, never again. Your clients will never have this opportunity.
So let me add, this probably isn't, probably hasn't been broadcast yet, but there are plans in the work to talk about the experience. You never want to leave here. In addition to the accommodations in the hotel, in addition to the access to the ocean and the beach and the beachside concierge service that will be established here, the Bell Harbor shops are going to be doing a pop-up retail program here with many of their shops being represented, and it's just to give the beach, the Fort Lauderdale beach, a flavor of the kind of retail that the developers here intend to attract. There'll be just under 80,000 square feet of commercial space, and the deal is that Bal Harbor is coming to Fort Lauderdale. They're bringing their brands with them, and the idea is to get people salivating over the idea that the experience of being in Fort Lauderdale Beach is going to be elevated to a level that is never seen before.
Thank you, Mayor. See, that's way past just pause.
No, and that's what we wanted to know. What else is happening? And I think maybe we can end. I know we have only a few more minutes, but maybe Tony or Mayor, you can tell us anything else that we have that we're expecting that's going to play into that luxury market that's set to happen in Fort Lauderdale.
To tee him up for something to beat up. So we've talked about luxury. We've really established that this is going in that direction. This entire community is, right? That everybody in the room should know that by now. But yeah, absolutely. But we can't ignore what makes Fort Lauderdale, Broward County genuine, right? Everybody, whether you're the highest spender, the person buying the highest, penthouse in the building, whatever, you still want to have a genuine experience in a safe atmosphere, and you can have that here. There are restaurants nearby that are owned by first-generation immigrants that are genuine food from other places around the world. There are little shops, I mentioned, owned by mom and pops around here. There are so many cultures in this community combined with a safe environment that you can have a genuine experience when you live in a place like this by just walking out your front door. And You don't get that everywhere. A lot of places, when you go there, it's that curated luxury, and that's all it is for miles, or it's the exact opposite. This is a great blend in this community of a genuine place that you get to feel cultures in and do so in a safe environment. And that's part of the really big appeal that makes this luxury mix with real life.
Well,
Well, but to Tony's point, and so Fort Lauderdale Beach is really open for everybody. We have different price points for everybody. You go up and down the beach. Yes, we have 5-star brands. We also have 4-star brands and 3-star brands. We have the mom and pop operations that are in the Central Beach area between, along the side streets, Vista Mar, Bayshore Drive. Just there's something for everybody here, which really gives it a feel that you're not just isolated in your own demographic. There are people out there that to interact with that really make the experience that much more genuine, as you said. So we're proud of that. We want to continue with that, and we feel that what St. Regis has done is really taken the experience to continues the luxury experience and adds to the total mix of what we have to offer here in Fort Lauderdale Beach. The city will continue to invest in infrastructure. For example, up the beach, Breakers Avenue, looks like we're going to move forward and redevelop that entire section to make it more pedestrian-oriented. We're also now looking at Bayshore Drive and Birch Road. We're looking to look at opportunities here that enhance the experience of walking up and down places. And it's not just for vehicular traffic. It's for people that really want to see what Fort Lauderdale is like when they're on a bike, when they're on foot. In fact, the whole peninsula of Bahia Mar is going to have a 20 or 25 foot walkway. I think it's 25 feet around the entire peninsula. It will be open to the public, but it's going to be on the perimeter, and we don't have that now. So it's great for being able to just take a relaxed and casual walk around the entire peninsula and appreciate the open space, look at all the boats, breathe in the sea air. It's really going to be a great experience when it's all completed.
Whether you're a resident or you're a vacationer, right? It's kind of for both.
If I may, because I know we only have a short period of time. Again, I see a lot of faces here that I know are very much part of Fort Lauderdale. Bahia Mar, being developed by Related, St. Regis, they're selling for around $2,500 per foot. And working with these other settlement agents, they tell me sometimes some of the locals come in and say, "Ouch, my arm." Let me give you, again, perspective. Just over 5 years ago, I saw a lot of real estate in the Miami Beach area, particularly Bal Harbor and Surfside. Before COVID, in 2019, I could have sold you anything, on average around $1,500 a foot, something brand spanking new, even Four Seasons in Surfside. Well, it's 5 years later. That area trades for $4,000 to $6,000 a foot every day, and it's not an anomaly. Prices keep inching up and up and up. It's mostly U.S. buyers, but we're getting the super wealthy from Brazil, Argentina, as an example, Ecuador, that are also buying it up over the world. The point is that the world has changed. When you look at the value of what Related is offering here, and the mayor did a hell of a job explaining the romance of what it's going to be like, what's going to feel like to live here. For your clients that are wondering how Fort Lauderdale got to $2,500 a foot, next year it's not going to be any less. Miami Beach just continues to inch up. Palm Beach doesn't inch up, it grows by the yard. It seems like the first stop of most Americans, particularly from the Northeast, is Palm Beach County, Palm Beach and West Palm. Now, when you consider everything that Related is putting into this piece of property, when you consider what the Tate family did to maintain this property for several decades, this is a never before and never again. And the value that Related is offering in the context of other oceanfront properties on the Gold Coast, it's a good value. It's a very good value. Let the Douglas Elliman people walk you through the details of the project. But I give George Perez once again a lot of credit. He saw the opportunity. He knew 2025 was going to be the year that the roller coaster started swinging back up. And one last thing. About 5 weeks ago, George and his two sons, John Paul and Nick, were interviewed on CNBC. I watched them a couple of times. And George, towards the end, he said, I've been developing in South Florida for 50 years, and it's kind of a roller coaster. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe he said roller coaster. Don't say it's going down, George, but hold on, he cleaned it up. He said it is a roller coaster, and it does tend to, tends to level off. But then once it goes back up, valuations get reset at a higher level than it was at the top of the previous cycle. And I'm sitting in my living room watching this on CNBC and thinking, son of a gun, he's right. I don't have any stats to prove it today, but I've been here for 32 years and he's spot on. That's exactly what happens. I just showed you some numbers. It shows you the market's back on. A lot of your clients don't see it because they don't know it. Now you know it, so now you can tell. And the $2,500 a foot that I'm talking about, that's price level one. Wait till next year, or more particularly, wait for this project to get finished. This will be rivaling, competing very much with some of the values that you're hearing about in areas like Mount Harper, Surfside. There's no way, because the whole world is coming to Florida. At 1,300 people a day, again, population is just growing. It's accelerating, particularly in Wealthy.
You guys have been such a beautiful audience. Thank you for having your phones off and for all your attention. We don't see this a lot of times, so I really appreciate your time. There will be people to answer any questions, but go outside, see the beautiful intercoastal, take the sun. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.